I am a cascade pulled down a rocky slope. I don't cry pretty. Do you know what it's like to be black and woman? To be worn for Halloween? You couldn't handle being in this body for real, for real. To know that civilization began in your womb and those very same people stop on it. To be a museum damaged by all of your visitors. To watch bigots erase your culture. Erase the very one that made them. I am everyone's mama.
To know who you are means to be one with yourself. Recognizing what your strengths and your weaknesses are and how to work with them in order to become a better person, personally and professionally, are vital.
Woo. What does it mean to know who I am? It means that I have the most respect for myself. I know what I will and will not allow in my life.
Okay.
And once you know that, everything comes in play.
I think to know who you are is to know all your strengths, but also know your weaknesses and know how to use them to your best advantage. I don't think just because something is a weakness means that it has to make you weak. I think there's a way to take everything and turn it into a good light.
It is the basis of it's the bane of my existence. To know who I am is to know what I'm willing to accept, what I'm not willing to accept, what I want out of life, what I don't want out of life. So that's why it's just as important as breathing to me, to know who I am.
You are.
It means to know who I am. Every morning as a black woman, I get up and I go to my place of employment. I'm currently working in the courtroom beside 5 juvenile judges. To know who I am means that I am confident of the woman that I am and the knowledge that I can bring to the court system.
You are.
It means to be comfortable with who you are, be comfortable in your skin, not worried about what others have to say or what others think about you because you are comfortable with who you are.
That's right.
Yet, always a martyr for man's war, always having to snatch back dignity from systems of a power America loves the lynching of its black woman, twisting around my neck a rope of oppression. I wear burden like it's branded on my back. They try and make me hate my own reflection. Try and make my reflection hate me, confusing and twisting my passion for rage. Media pays millions to annihilate my image. Fuck the media and fabrication. I substitute my wrath with sass to save a job that already don't want me here. Society don't want me here. I am angry as hell. Do you know how dangerous it is to be black, woman, and angry out loud?
Well, actually, by not recognizing what we have to offer and downplaying our contributions to society as a whole. There are still lots of companies today that don't have significant amounts of African American women senior representation in their companies. As of January 2017, Fortune 500 magazine states that women, African American women specifically, were not only underrepresented, they weren't represented at all. There are no current black women running Fortune 500 companies.
You often hear the stereotype that black women are loud or aggressive or overly independent. I think with those stereotypes, they strip black women of who they are and why they are who they are.
Okay.
Working in corporate America, we are constantly challenged by Caucasian Americans and also judges in reference to what we know, how we know, in our interpretations of laws and the rules of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and how we have to, as a society, provide a service to our public when they don't have the knowledge of knowing what they're doing as far as their filings and custody and visitation cases, and sometimes in child support cases. So as a black American, sometimes you are pushed when you have someone of another ethnic race that wants to know exactly how do you know what you know. Each and every day I'm constantly tested of my capabilities and my knowledge of knowing the court system. I am questioned, and I have to each and every day acknowledge the fact of my position and being a service to the public as far as not advising them, but helping them along their process.
Well, historically, they kind of look at us, I guess, as if we're making excuses. For example, like, if a black woman goes to the doctor and is like, oh, I feel this type of way, half the time they don't get treated for what they actually have. They're just like, okay, well, it's probably just a cold. Maybe you actually got the flu. So I feel like it's in that instance, like, historically, they just don't listen. And then it's also just like, I think they see us as loud and boisterous, so they just assume that everything comes from a place of anger instead of trying to actually understand where it's coming from. So they just dismiss it as, oh, you're just an angry black woman.
Like, the way I've been stripped with my voice is being disrespected by men because they feel like they can say anything to me, but you just have to know how to put your foot down and how your voice can be heard. And just because you're a woman, you do have rights as a man.
Do you feel like because you put your foot down that people often consider you aggressive or ghetto?
Yes, I be called ghetto and aggressive all the time just because I'm very upfront now. But it doesn't get in my way because I feel as though people know that they can't come to me any type of way.
Do you feel like the idea that the black woman is ghetto and loud all the time is a stereotype that's perpetuated?
Yes, 110%. Just because I say how I feel and I don't tolerate disrespect, that doesn't mean I'm ghetto.
By accusations of automatically defaulting our passion to being an angry black woman. I'm not necessarily angry. I'm passionate about things that I care about. I have the right to be angry at certain times, but we're not always angry. We're just passionate about getting things done.
Okay. To be loud and black, to be bold and black, to be educated and black, to be anything in black, America loves stripping away at my tongue, expecting me to comply like my discontent don't deserve to feel that way. I don't deserve to feel. Imagine already being dead at conception, sexualized before learning what consent is. Black girl does not get to be baby. I am a cascade pulled down a rocky slope. I don't cry pretty. Sometimes I don't cry enough or get to grieve or get to breathe. To endure is to learn to walk. Black girls learn this as adolescents. Learn that America loves lynching of its black women, always made into martyrs for man's war, continuing to erase us until we are almost unrecognizable.
Many times throughout my professional career, one time that comes to mind specifically was we had a very bad snowstorm. And I had discussed with my boss that I would not be able to come in and that I was taking my safety into account. After that happened, pretty much everything I tried to do was either shut down or I was given a hard time about it. Eventually, I did have to get HR involved in order to do an investigation. Some of the things I did was I became a master of my field. What I did was started attending classes. I started reading literature, and I also had a mentor that was very knowledgeable about our particular field, and anything that I needed that I couldn't find on my own, that person was always an available and willing resource.
Absolutely.
Yes. How did you recover or regain your voice back?
Family and friends, talking, expressing myself, and being okay with others not being okay with who I am.
Yes.
And how do you regain or recover your voice back?
Basically, I regained my voice back because of my knowledge and my skills as a deputy clerk. Being that I am a supervisor, I was previously a deputy clerk, so I used my experience and my knowledge as a deputy clerk to train and supervise my deputy clerks that are underneath.
Yes, and in corporate settings, a lot of times, it will be more so that if you don't, it's not necessarily about the lack of experience, but if you don't look a certain way, if you aren't related to the right people, it's easy a lot of times for people of other races to use nepotism and things of that nature to excel and to look out for their family members, as opposed to a lot of minorities typically have to work from the ground up.
I regain it back by taking time to myself, realizing what I need to work on as far as myself, realizing the people around me, negativity, and try to bring more positive energy into my life.
I think the only instance of that would have been when I was in high school, because I was in the IB program, and even though I went to like mostly African American school, IB in itself is not mostly African American. It was literally dominated by like, you know, whites or people who were from the Middle East, and they were looked at as like the ideal student in a sense, and they kind of just threw the African American kids off by the wayside. So if you present like a project idea, everyone's just kind of like, no, that's not gonna work, or that's ghetto, or you're just joking around, you're not being serious. So yeah.
Okay, how did you recover or regain your voice back from that instance?
It was always just a thing of standing your ground, and unfortunately, as an African American, you always have to have more than what's needed of you. So you always have to have like the set plan, how it's gonna work, when it's gonna work, when you're gonna do it. And in a way, it kind of helps you as a person, because then it's like, you know, you go into the future, you have that all set out already. Now nobody can ask you a question, but it's like, I shouldn't have to do that, because no one else really has to do that. But yeah, it's just like asserting your authority, but not overstepping your boundaries, because at the end of the day, you overstep, now you're an angry black woman.
Resistance pretty much means the inability to embrace or evolve through change, because change is inevitable. So it's how we, embrace it pretty much is how we get through it. Some people think that resistance will get them a quicker result, but what I have found is that resistance often hinders the process. You still may get a end result, of course you will, but it's not always the desired result, because there's a process.
Resistance means not giving a fuck. I don't know if I can say fuck.
You can, girl. You girl.
Means not giving a fuck.
Great.
Doing what you're gonna do and not caring who cares what you do.
Resistance means, as a supervising deputy clerk, we are not supposed to give legal advice to the public. What we have to do is basically ask them what they're needing, what they're wanting, and then we can kind of lead them to the direction in which they want to go. Resistance is not being able to truly tell them what they need to do. So I'm constantly tested each and every day of my resistance, because being that I am a single mother and I did go through the process of going through child support and needing child support, basically not telling them what they need to do, just not advising them, but leading them in the direction so that they can have the answers that they need.
I think resistance is just going with what you morally believe is right and not listening to the naysayers or following with the crowd, and not letting, hard times get to you or break you down, because it's a lot easier to just go with the flow than it is to go against the grain.